This is All Things Ansys, a podcast from the technical support staff at PADT. Episode 136. We talk about Ansys Optics with experts from both PADT and Ansys, along with news and events from the world of Ansys. Greetings, I'm Eric Miller, one of PADT's 3 owners and your host for these podcasts. Welcome to episode 136, where we're going to focus on optics. Don't worry, we will keep the optics puns to a minimum, but we hope you will find this episode illuminating. Anyway, I'm recording this on May 8th, so we are well into the second quarter of 2025. There's still a lot of uncertainty out there in the world of manufacturing as interest rates stay fixed, and there's no real closure on what the future will look like as all the parties do their thing that they're doing. But we simulation engineers have a secret weapon, simulation. So when we do get some clarity on what costs are going to be or where things are going to be coming from, what materials are there, we can do our thing and improve designs, products, and systems, as well as manufacturing processes to adapt to the changing world and how costs and labor and material availability will change with that changing world. So we're ready for it. They just need to make up their minds. So while we wait for all of that to settle, let's turn our attention to a growing part of the Ansys simulation world, optics and photonics. Modeling the physics of light is not just cool, it is becoming a critical part of product design because more and more complex optical devices are making their way into more products. And we are not just talking about cell phones, automobiles, defense products, medical devices, manufacturing systems. Even toys are using more optics to deliver more capability and functionality to users. And getting the optics to work, to fit, and to last is the job of engineering of simulation engineers like you. So let's learn more from some experts from both Ansys. We're joined by some folks from Ansys this time, which is fantastic, and from PADT. Note, the recording on MS Teams, it cut off the first 1 or 2 words, but you didn't miss anything. I'm just saying hello, and it jumps right in. So take a listen. There's some really cool things. And the other thing that I'll point out before we get started is we had a really good discussion about how some of the people from Ansys got into the world of simulation. And there's some cool stories, how they got into optics or how they got into simulation. So it's worth a listen for that as well. So see you in a few. To a fantastic discussion on one of our favorite topics here, which is optics with Ansys, so Ansys Optics. What's special about today is usually Cynthia is carrying the weight of everybody on these discussions, but this time we're actually joined by experts from Ansys, and we'll get a chance to hear from them and what they do at Ansys. So we're going to really kind of focus on what's exciting in the world of Ansys Optics. That's kind of our goal for today, and just kind of have a discussion and see where it leads. So why don't we go ahead and get started with David. Why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us, how you ended up in the world of optics and at Ansys, and then what you do for Ansys.
Sure, Eric. Thanks for having me. I'm David Vega. I'm a manager of R&D in the Optical Engineering group. So I lead a global team of solution engineers, which are literally designing the new features that we release with Ansys products. And how did I get here? Gosh, it's been a long trip, but it's a really nice trip at the same time. So I started in physics one day, coming from a family that doesn't have much education. One day, one of my professors just told me, hey, do you want to do research? And I was like, research what? What is that? Right. So he was like, no, come. And he showed me his lab. And I was like fascinated by it. Right.
That's
so, and I developed a really quick and dirty computational microscope with a cell phone as an undergrad. And then one day, this same person asked me, David, why you don't do a PhD? So as you can imagine, my next question, my answer was a PhD. What? Right? So he was like, "You're good at researching. Why you don't do that?" So he actually pushed me towards a program called McNair. and McNair scholars are basically people that are preparing to undergo into a PhD. That's where I learned what a PhD was in reality, right? So I went to University of Arizona, get my PhD in optical sciences. And during my time in Arizona, I learned about, back then, CMAX. And I got in love with it. I feel like it was like a video game for me. I will just open CMAX and just play with it and see what I got. And, trying to get the results I was looking in the classes right on CMAX. That helped me a lot. Most of my homework was made by CMAX, not by me. But that's a different story. So after I graduated, I did some, well, actually, before I graduated, I did some contractual work for CMAX, which we can talk on another day. But it just made sense for me to join the team, right? I knew the team.
Yes.
I
Awesome.
was excited about their software, and here I am.
That's great. Well, we're lucky to have you. Thank you. How about Kerry?
Hi, everyone. So my journey was a little different to David. So my career actually started out not really focusing on product marketing at all. So I was focused on actually becoming a teacher to begin with. And I got a job, sort of, I thought, oh, it'll only be 3 weeks or what have you, in marketing. And I haven't changed, and I haven't moved from ZMAX and then into Ansys since. So, marketing I fell in love with, but I can honestly say it was by chance that I fell into product marketing with ZMAX and Ansys.
That's awesome. Well, in some ways, good marketing is teaching, right? So
educating, definitely. Yep. You are right.
Yep, exactly. Well, thanks for joining us today. And then Angela, is it Forcino or Forcino?
Forcino, or Forcino, whichever you would like. It's Argentine, Italian background from my husband's side, so you can say what you want. And I kind of similar to Kerry. I actually I'm product marketing manager for Ansys now, but I originally started out doing events as a travel and event director of travel and event management for a healthcare company, and then worked my way over into the software arena with ZMAX. And I actually, it's kind of funny, David was talking, one of the first times I met David was when he was a customer attending our user group conference in Boston. And we actually, David, I think it was the one in Las Vegas. I think that was the first one for
probably
ZMAX.
Yes.
Yeah, and we were chatting like crazy outside the session when he probably should have been in class, but but it was just a lot of fun to get his perspective. And I know when he joined us, I was very excited because I had those opportunities to meet with him, and I thought it was wonderful. So just a plug,
awesome,
for our user group meetings, how they definitely help making those connections.
And it's a family, right? And so it's really important to spend the time on these things, whether virtual or in person. I totally agree. Cool. So Lisa Clauson.
Yes, hi. I am a senior product manager at Ansys, and I primarily focus on both ZMAX and cloud integrations for the entire optics suite.
Oh, great.
Yeah, that's a new territory for me, but I'm learning a lot, and it's been a lot of fun to kind of dive into something brand new. But yeah, so I have a very unconventional background on my way to ZMAX. I started out working in film as a camera assistant.
What?
I worked on television and movie production for about 5 years, directly interacting with the camera equipment. That business is a little bit too tumultuous for me. It's the freelance lifestyle.
Yep.
So yeah, I pivoted more into focusing more on the equipment side and a person I was working for directed me towards lenses because he said, no matter what changes with the camera, you always need to put glass in front of it.
That's right.
So that's kind of been my motto throughout my career. I went to work for a company called Panavision, which is one of the larger motion pictures companies. They're known for their motion picture lenses. And I kind of worked my way up from a service tech, took machining classes and worked in manufacturing. And I was building lenses and doing quality testing, and MTF machine and all of that. And then moved over to engineering, where I was a CAD drafter for the optomechanical group, and then eventually was an optomechanical engineer with them.
That is awesome.
Yeah, learned a lot along the way, met a lot of people that were top notch at each of those stages, that I was able to learn under, and I gathered a lot of knowledge on that path. When I was an optomechanical engineer, the optical engineer was needing a lot of help. So I pivoted into taking optical engineering classes at the University of California, Irvine. I actually studied under Mary Turner. She's pretty well known in the industry.
Yeah.
She was my teacher. And I started to help out the optical engineer with his designs. He was doing a lot of work by hand, and I would translate his scribbles, sometimes handed to me on pieces of paper. One time it was handed to me on a banana peel. He was very busy.
I've never heard that one before. That's good.
Yeah, that's a new one for me too.
I know.
Napkins, the back of envelopes, banana peel. No.
When you catch someone in the hallway and all they have on them is a banana peel and a pen, you take what you can.
That's awesome.
I remember Lisa telling me that story when we were working on a project for ZMAX's old product, Optics Builder. It was great. I laughed. It was an amazing story.
One of my favorite moments.
That's definitely a highlight, right?
Yes.
I would take those and translate them into ZMAX for him, and then optimize the designs and come back and work on some of that stuff with him. And so when I transitioned to ZMAX, I came in as a subject matter expert on optomechanics with some optical manufacturing background from that job. And joined their, at the time it was Lens Mechanics, when they were launching it on Creo, because I was a Creo expert. And then eventually I became the product manager when we were recreating it as Optics Builder. Better GUI, better usability all around, better performance, and launched that and was on Optics Builder all the way through the Ansys transition until it made sense for both me and that product to move on, and I joined the Optics Studio team.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's I love that path. I mean, starting in the picture industry, but moving pictures, I sound old. Moving picture industry, in the film industry. I mean, sometimes we forget that the lens is that, like, lenses are everywhere, right? Glasses everywhere, and that's one of the most important ones. That's so cool. Whether it's digital or actual film. Yeah, that's cool. Cynthia, I don't know if you can top the banana story, but why don't you share a little bit about yourself as well?
Yep, I don't think I can, and that's all right. So I am part of the PADT team, so I'm sure our listeners have heard from me in the past.
Yes.
But I don't think we've gone into, the details of how I made my way into optics. It's a little bit of, David's story, and along with Kerry's, actually. So I started off in astronomy in my undergrad, and by my senior year, I realized that I did not like staying up late at night, and I really did not like creating code to process the data that I gathered over the night. So I graduated, and I really liked my optics lab, and I was thinking about what I wanted to do in the future, and I had a couple of opportunities. I could either be a teacher here in Gilbert, Arizona, the greater Phoenix area, teaching physics, or I can take a leap and go work as a junior optical engineer over in New Mexico. So I decided to take the leap, and I learned most of what I know about optics at that role. I had the pleasure of having what I would call great mentors. I don't know if they would have called themselves mentors at the time, but a lot of the mechanical engineers kind of took me under their wing, which is where I get kind of my optomechanical background. I did a lot of optical alignment in the lab. I was in clean rooms with the big bunny suit, and it was a great time working on space hardware, worked on a lot of mechanical drawings for our optical lenses and creating procedures for alignment processes as well. And so I loved it. It's where I learned about ZMAX, and I will say it was difficult at first without that kind of proper introduction to the tool, or even any kind of like optical design courses. So I decided to take a couple of courses from the University of Arizona whenever I could, whether it was just a semester course without really majoring in anything, to later going down an optomechanical master's path. It's been really fun, and just like David said, it was like a video game. You kind of start somewhere, you know where you need to end, and it's like a puzzle. I love doing jigsaw puzzles. I loved, Legos and all of that. So it just kind of felt like a natural progression into the optomechanical, but also optical lens design path.
Cool. I love that. I did not know that whole background. That's fantastic. I sometimes wonder if I could do a survey on how many simulation engineers are huge Legos fans, because I think that would be a common thread. It is so much fun. We forget it sometimes when we're in the weeds, that it's just a lot of fun building these things and solving these puzzles. So that's I really appreciate that, and hopefully it'll let our listeners kind of understand the broad background of the folks that are in the Ansys family, and how you don't necessarily need to be a optics person to work in the optics industry, which is fantastic as well. So what I really want to do is kind of highlight what's new and exciting about it. So, as you guys know, and most of our listeners probably know, Ansys, the company, has acquired these different optics tools over the years. Who wants to tackle just a really high level overview of the different families within the optics family? Does somebody want to take that one? Just kind of give people new to it an idea of what's out there.
Not everybody's jumping up at once.
Yeah.
I'll take the question.
Okay, cool. Since you got to make them all work in the cloud, you're probably the most familiar with them.
Yeah, I mean, along with the product marketers, I'm probably the one that spans all of them. So Lumerical is meant for, kind of photonic design. So marketing, forgive me, I forget. What's our tagline is, like, from photons to full scale products. So we kind of cover all of that. So photon design with Lumerical, and then we're moving up to ZMAX, which is kind of the component level design, the regular optical design. And then with Speos, now we're putting it into a product form. So it's now taking physical shape and having outside contributing factors.
Yeah, that's kind of a great way to look at it, is you can kind of work from that photon level to that lens assembly level to let's put it into the device itself and see how it all behaves with the final with the Speos products. And that's pretty cool stuff. So I'll just throw it out there. And what's got you the most excited, or do you see users? And maybe I'll start with David. What's got you the most excited in the world of optics at Ansys these days?
Oof. Without disclosing much of what we're doing.
No futures. What do we have today?
Yes. I think, okay, so, God, two of the projects that I'm really excited about to see how our customers go and use it is all the optomechanical new things that we've been adding, and the stress bifrangens capability of our star model. Especially the stress bifrangens, it utilizes a very novel algorithm which doesn't exist in any other software. And I think we nailed that one, because AR/VR headsets are basically prone to these effects, and to actually be able to model how light interact with these things, it's really hard. and that's the Ansys world, right? That's what we bring to the table. Yeah, that's what we bring to the table to our customers, so they don't have to have a Python script trying to model all these things. So that one is, to me, one of the biggest developments on the last year. It has uses everywhere, not only in AR/VR system, but probably also in defense and some other applications, biomedical for sure, with all these brittle components that they use. And if they want to control polarization, they're really capable to model this nowadays. So making the device probably safer for the customer in case they use high energy lasers or things like that, right? So that's one. The other one is the optomechanical additional capabilities we've been added. We're getting more realistic as we go. The tolerancing in optics are getting more realistic to the actual physical world. They used to be pretty close, but now are easier to set up. You want to spend 3 weeks just thinking if your tolerances are okay, which nothing wrong about that. It's better to be safe than sorry, right? During tolerancing, but but definitely those two are definitely the highlights from some of our latest development. I will throw one more in, which is our feature experiment in sequence selector. Now we can, while this is a feature experiment, it is very powerful. You can analyze first and second order or any order ghosting effects. So now you can go into the component level analysis of all these ghostings with a better ability to analyze a specific optical path. So I think that's one that is going to grow in the future in usage. I'm pretty sure our straight light customers are going to be super thrilled about it because the straight light analysis hasn't really changed in a few years. Right, so we might give them some love with this feature, and hopefully they start using it.
That's really cool. The ability to kind of look at these optomechanical things is so important because unfortunately the lenses just don't float in the middle of nowhere with no loads on them, right?
Wait, what?
They don't?
They don't?
Oh, darn it. From a product marketing standpoint, Kerry or Angela, do you have something that, you guys are really promoting that you think is really going to make a difference for customers out there?
From my side, I think, just the overall ecosystem and being able to integrate with the other Ansys tools available. So I think that's probably one of the things that makes me the most excited, is being able to see what the customers can really do, not just with Ansys Optics, but also with the broad range of products that Ansys brings to the table. And we have optics.ansys.com, which is a really fantastic resource with loads of developed workflows. And in there, we are starting to build out the workflows that, do promote ZMAX numerical and Speos individually and also used in combination, but also other Ansys tools like Flu and Mechanical, etc., for customers that are, developing something that where it's needed. So that's what really excites me, is just the capabilities of all the tools.
Yeah, I hear you on that, because I grew up when those things didn't exist, and it was just painful to even think about how you're going to get these things to talk to each other, and writing code and sending files back and forth and making approximations, and the integration of everything is just, it makes things so much better these days.
Yeah,
I do kind of want to add,
please
if that's okay, with what Angela mentioned on optics.ansys.com.
Yes.
We talk about integration between the optics products, right? So we've got Lumerical, Speos, and ZMAX, and we've got workflows for different type of applications. But last week I noticed that there is also an application for like numerical integration into mechanical and understanding how stress and deformation of a waveguide or a fiber can affect the efficiency of that fiber. And so it's
Right.
connecting numerical with mechanical. And I just wanted to emphasize what Angela said, that there is integration not just within the Ansys optics tools, but Ansys as a whole. And I think it's great to have all of these tools under the Ansys umbrella. It provides a lot more capabilities across platforms.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's an important thing to underline, because if like a listener is thinking, I'm not an optics expert, like many of you started, right? And I want to jump in and use this tool because everything has optics in it these days. And there's a lot of resources out there for you to get started, right? And this website is one of them. The Learning Hub, I assume, has lots of stuff in the optics world. And is there a forum they could go to as well as the Ansys user forum, something the optics folks hang out on, or is that another place?
So we do have, Lisa, you might be able to talk to this a little bit more, but we do have a couple of different resources. So we've got the Ansys Learning Hub, we've got optics.ansys.com, and I think there's another one as well, Lisa, isn't there, that I am forgetting?
Well, we do have our regular optics forum, which you can get to through optics.ansys.com.
That's what I'm thinking of.
That's the main one. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's what I was thinking of. Okay. Good.
I want to just quickly plug something here. Go back to your question of Kerry and I. One of the things that I find just amazing to be able to help promote and be a part of is that, this trend towards miniaturization in optics. Everything's getting, it needs to be smaller, it needs to be lighter, it needs to be, on a chip, or, and the Ansys products, help that trend. We help in that trend. And it's been a lot of fun, because if you think of your ARV headset, we just did a recent social post about, eye tracking systems and, just in healthcare, all of these industries that are going smaller, and, how our software is enabling them to innovate this way is just incredible. And I really love the opportunity to market that.
Yeah, and on the back of what Angela's just said, for everyone listening, we are actually developing a new web page all around miniaturization that will be available off of ansys.com and the Ansys Optics page. And on there, we're going to have a whole wide range of white papers and blogs coming out throughout the year on the various different industries, from data centers, healthcare, high tech, automotive, A&D. So, that would be my main hub of somewhere to go for marketing information as well around this trend of miniaturization.
Which is exciting. And for those of us on the other side of the house that do mechanical and thermal, there's no room to get rid of the heat anymore either. So you got to have simulation to solve these problems, right? It's just getting smaller and smaller. So it's pretty cool stuff. Cynthia, do you have anything you're kind of excited about that we haven't talked about yet?
Yeah, so David did bring up stray light, but on the ZMAX side of things, and something that I've been really advocating for our users to try is a SPIOS stray light simulation. So it's a little different approach, but still the same physics, still the same idea of tracing different ghost images and tracking them back to the lens that may be the issue, or maybe it's a mechanical housing of a lens, something like that. But that's kind of the path that I've been kind of investigating on my end. It's just a really cool approach to something that's been done. It's a very well detailed workflow in ZMAX, and so being able to do this from the system level on the SPIOS side has been a lot of fun, and a lot of the users I've spoken to have been pretty impressed with the approach that SPIOS has available to them.
Yeah, that's it's one of those things that you kind of didn't have time to simulate before, and now you can get in there and do it. So it's pretty changing stuff.
Yeah, I will also add,
please.
so on the SPIO side, it has also become a lot easier for vendors to provide their proprietary information in a black box, just like with ZMAX. But I will say the
Good.
benefit to doing this in SPIOs is that you can run those stray light analyses that you may not be able to on the ZMAX side. You can do that in SPIOs because of the way that the data is encrypted in the black box. And so I've been working with customers who are, trying really hard to simulate their full optical system specifically for autonomous vehicles. And they kept saying, I only have a black box. I don't have, all the information needed, but we're seeing that there's a lot of images from the sun that are affecting our system performance. And so how can we tackle this issue? And so in the last couple of releases, the SPIOs team has really pushed forward in that workflow.
Yeah, that's a great application. And I think something else that it's a good segue as well, because what we haven't talked about is application. So when I start thinking about ZMAX especially, I think about a camera, right? I'm old, so I think about just a 35 millimeter camera, or a telescope. But there's a lot of applications out there. And what is the one that you guys are seeing growing the most? Is it autonomous vehicles? Is it medical? Or is it kind of a bunch of them?
I would say, David, tell me if you disagree with this, or you can give your own opinion on this. But I think cell phone lenses are a high growth area for us in terms of application. Again, getting back into what Angela said with miniaturization, cell phone lenses are getting better, but they're also constrained from weight and size. So we've been considering that one after we think of like cameras and telescopes as like our number 3 use case, and that we want to try and support with our tools.
I completely agree, because I was gonna ask this room, like, I bet a cup of coffee you have a cell phone.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
So it is carried with us all day, most of the time. We don't have one camera in our cell phone anymore, like in 1800s. We have several cameras, right? And the thing is, these cameras are so challenging. And we come back to the problem of miniature optics, right? They want to stick a camera in 5 millimeters square. And the challenge is there, right? So I think that's one of the growth area. Obviously, there is a lot of companies investing on AR, VR systems, automotive, and all those things. Autonomous driving is another area. But if you think about it, autonomous driving is also kind of looking at when it comes to optics, it's kind of looking also at the miniature cameras, right? So it's very similar. So I think the smaller we get a camera that is high performing, we're going to be able to serve many sectors in the industry.
Yeah.
I just have to say it, endoscopes.
Oh,
One of the smallest cameras you can get for endoscopes.
That's right.
Yeah,
You're right.
I work in a camera that was 700 microns in diameter. That was challenging, and it was for a falloposcope. So yes, those are very challenging. And actually, I don't know if you know this, but a lot of people working in the optics industry making these cell phone cameras precisely come from this background, biomedical engineering, because they are so used to have these constraints on size that that's the first thing they think about.
Well, I know I appreciate the efforts because I've got a little hummingbird nest in my backyard, and I've been
Oh,
taking like National Geographic quality photos with my iPhone. It amazes me with the macro lens, the detail I can get of those babies. It's phenomenal and kind of brought home. It's funny that how this optics stuff is impacting our daily lives, right? That would have been a professional photographer with a very expensive set of gear and proper lighting, and I'm standing on a stool, sticking my cell phone into the nest, and it's amazing the video and images I'm getting. So, really, really cool stuff. Yeah. So what kind of wrap it up here. Is there anything that any of you would like the users to know about Ansys Optics that you think they might not know, or that maybe they know but you want to remind them? Maybe it's resources available, maybe it's capabilities that aren't used as much as you think they should. Anything like that? Anybody have anything?
Yeah, one thing that I wanted to talk about
Hmm.
involves the cloud integrations for this group.
Please. Yeah.
It is a brand new, more relatively new
Hmm.
functionality for all three products.
Hmm.
Um, and we're working pretty quickly on offering multiple different types of offerings
Yeah.
for cloud integration, depending on, what a user might want to be doing, how fast do they want to do it, if they have a price point that they're trying to stick
Hmm.
to, what their technical capabilities are in setting up a cloud
Hmm.
resource. So we have some really cool offerings for that I think is beneficial no matter what use case you're doing, because it can help speed up your design time
Oh yeah.
overall. We do have a really cool new thing coming out next week, actually,
Hmm.
which is it's called Burst, and
Hmm.
we're launching it on Lumerical on May 7th. And this is directly in the FDT product. You can launch a high GPU, there's CPU as well, but high
Hmm.
GPU simulation from into the cloud. And we have set up the resource in the back end. The customer just needs to go in and click the button and put in what they, how fast they want it to
Hmm.
run. So very easy accessibility.
I love that. And it's a good point. I'm glad you brought up GPUs because I assume most of these tools can leverage GPUs since they're graphical processing units, right? So if you don't have access to those in your machine, being able to go to the cloud when you need that huge burst capability, which I love the name burst.
Yeah.
That's a powerful thing, especially if you're doing statistics. The other thing is statistical studies, right? So maybe you're doing some of these looking at the how tolerances impact your lenses and things. Your is it called beam shape? What do you guys call it? The quality of the image, um, and being able to run multiple cases simultaneously in the cloud is a fantastic thing as well.
Absolutely. I just like the idea that we're making it more accessible to the everyday user.
Yeah, yeah.
Because, I'm new to cloud as well. And when I first started to look into it, it
Mm-hmm.
was like learning a new language. And
Mm-hmm.
this kind of takes out that high threshold to learn it.
Yeah. You just really want to hit solve, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Cynthia, do you have anything that we missed that you'd like to share with the team?
Mm, I don't think off the top of my head.
Okay. Cool.
I have one, Eric,
Please, Dave.
and I
Yeah.
really want to communicate this one because
Mm-hmm.
Some people are so used to the classical optical design
Yes.
that they don't really try our new capabilities.
Yes.
Right. So they are just
Mhm.
using the classical way to model an optical system. Hey, if you want more business and to be more hireable, look at our new features, right? Spend more time with our ACE department or our channel
Mm-hmm.
partners to learn all these new features. We have been improving the optical design workflow for years, and we will keep doing so. But if people don't look for that, they probably don't get informed on
Mm-hmm.
what's new there, right? There are so many new capabilities that customers could potentially be using um, in a better cadence to be more efficient,
Mm-hmm.
to finish more projects at the same time, to minimize the risk on their systems. And these workflows is not something we improve by ourselves. We usually rely on customers for us to know what is the pain point, what is something they need to improve. So by learning all these new features, I bet another cup of coffee that your optical design skills are just gonna grow exponentially.
What you can do, where you can take your product is going to improve if you learn these new capabilities. That's so true. Yeah, I totally agree with that. That's great. Angela, you have any last words before we wrap it up here?
I do, kind of on the note of David on learning about our new features and building that repository of knowledge. We do have other than our knowledge base and our application gallery, we also offer what we're calling virtual deep dives, and we're offering these monthly. They just started in 2025. We just wrapped up on advancing metal lens design. So they're having monthly. So we have one coming up that's stray light analysis. Another one, just to give you an idea of what the subjects are, is accelerating automotive lighting design, stop and soft. So these are all listed on the Ansys.com upcoming events page, and we definitely advertise them, but they go a little deeper than your regular webinar that gives you more of a overview. They actually have that live demo component as well as a live Q&A session, actually 2 within these sessions, to allow the users to ask questions of our experts. So this is just something that I wanted to mention, because it does give you that opportunity to learn more.
Yeah, and how do they find those and sign up for them?
They're on the Ansys.com website under events, upcoming events.
Okay, events. Okay, excellent. Okay. Very good. Yeah, love that, and highly recommend it. I mean, that's such invaluable. You can save yourself so much time by even if you think you're not going to use that feature soon, listening in on something like that, and then when you come to that capability, you've got a head start. So those are great. I love it. Very fantastic. Well, I really appreciate it. I think it's helped me understand a bit more what's out there and what the tools can do and what resources are available and where things are headed, which is only getting better with time, right? So I really appreciate everybody taking their time to join us, and hopefully we can have you on in a year or two to see what else is new in the world of Ansys Optics. So really appreciate it. Thanks much.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye. We could talk a long time about this very broad topic. I just love it. But hopefully it gave those of you who are optics adjacent, working in devices that have optics, where you're simulating other parts or systems that include optics. Hopefully it'll give you something to understand what optical engineers are looking at and what they can do with these tools. Or if you are an optics engineer, you should feel pretty good about what is there, how Ansys is handling these tools they have acquired, and what more features and capabilities are on their way. So a lot going on in the world of optics. They're not slowing down. Better integration, better capability, better speed. It's all good stuff. So it's a bright future. And on that note, let's take a look at this episode's commercial. I want to cover PADT as a whole. So PADT is an 85-person company based in Tempe, Arizona, with offices across the Southwest that is the leading provider of products and services to companies that design and manufacture products. We started the company back in 1994. We just had our 30th anniversary last year, when we took 3 core computer engineering technologies that we were using at what was then Allied Signal and now Honeywell Aerospace, and built a consulting company around them. We did simulation, advanced design, and 3D printing. A few years later, the vendors who were providing us with these tools asked us to become a reseller. And that's how we became an Ansys channel partner and started selling Stratasys equipment. Later on, we added Flownex for 1D thermal fluid systems, EOS metal 3D printers, and the combined Zeiss and GOM optical and laser scanners. We continue to provide services with teams dedicated to product development, simulation, and 3D printing as a service. You can learn more at www.padtinc.com. Most of you know us for Ansys, but we do much more. So please recommend us to other people you work with, or consider reaching out for your own simulation software or design products or consulting needs. All right, let's take a look at Ansys stock. Well, since we last talked, I think when I recorded the last episode, it was on its way down, and it went a little bit more down since then, and then it's on its way back up again. So very volatile. It's a roller coaster ride, and it's really unrelated to Ansys and their business. The price of Ansys shares went right along with the ride, so it's on an upswing after the low in early April. As I record this on May 8th, it's at $335.22. The high over the last 12 months was $363 and the low was $275. So that's a $90 price swing over a month. So that's a lot of volatility there. It's still below the $390 per share that Synopsys put on the table over a year ago for the acquisition. So we'll see how that goes. So speaking of which, let's take a look at the Q1 results that Ansys put out on May 1st. So they reported Q1 2025. Revenue was $504.9 million, up from $457 million in Q1 of 2024. That's an 8.2% increase in revenue. Profit was $51 million, which was up 49% from $35 million last year. That's a good number. That gets their profit margin up from 9.3% in Q1 of 2024 to 11.7% in Q1 of 2025. These are all numbers using what they call standard accounting practices. There's other ways to do it. It's generally accepted accounting practices, GAAP. You can, if you'd like to look at the other numbers, you can take a look at the press release. Anyway, a key metric for them is something called annual contract value. We've talked about it before on the podcast. It's how much money they expect to bill for people. What's the annual value of contracts that our customers have with Ansys? And that went from $1.92 million in 2024 Q1, billion, sorry, to $2.18 billion in Q1 of 2025. So nice increase there. Cash is up to $1.8 billion from $1.5 billion, so another $3 billion in the first 3 months of the year. And long-term debt is unchanged at $754 million. So if you want to take a look at these numbers and dig deeper into them, you can always check out the press release at investors.ansys.com and see it all for yourself. They don't do an actual meeting that you can listen to because of the acquisition, but you can definitely look at the numbers. So speaking of that, in that Q1 press release, they mentioned a little bit of the Synopsys acquisition. They list the UK, Japan, Turkey, Korea, and Taiwan as approving the merger in Q1. What UK's got, they had to sell one of the companies in order to get the UK, or one of the products to get the UK to approve. So that's tentative, but all that looks good. What they don't say is that China is still holding on to the ruling. What they have in there is we continue to work with the regulators and other relevant jurisdictions to conclude these reviews. Well, as I was typing that, I said, let me check again. Is there any news today? And yes, there was. They announced that negotiations with China were moving forward. And I'll quote, they are moving forward with a preliminary agreement with China's antitrust regulator. So it seems like they have common ground. We don't know what the details are. Stay tuned. By the time this episode is published, you might actually know more about what needs to be done from China's standpoint, if anything. So that's the big one that's still holding things up. They're still talking about the deal going through by the end of this quarter or the middle of the year. So it could be the beginning of next quarter. So we'll see what happens there, but getting closer. Every month it gets a little bit closer. I also want to remind everybody of this year's Simulation World. So Simulation World 2025 is July 16th through the 17th. This is an Ansys virtual user conference. And it's always interesting. You can drop in and drop out, or you can just listen in the background. That's what I do. I just kind of have it on while I'm doing work. Always interesting stuff, good interviews with senior people, thought leaders. It's good stuff. So I recommend that you check that out. It's July 16th and 17th. Now, one of the things that they're doing, kind of bringing it back, is the live in-person event. So they've got events potentially, some are scheduled, some are being worked out in the UK, Scandinavia, Israel, Canada, in Silicon Valley, and then for the US in Silicon Valley, Detroit, and Houston. So one of those may be near you. You can sign up for and register for the virtual event, which I recommend, and also learn about the in-person events by searching for Ansys Simulation World. It's a long URL. So I just search for Ansys Simulation World. It'll take you there, and you can register and you can check out the local events, see if one fits you. PADT news, nothing. We don't have anything new to report, so I'll move on from that. The next thing on our agenda is my pick for Ansys blog articles to take a look at. So I always pick 3. And the first one I actually didn't want to read. The title is Introducing a Digital Engineering Methodology to Aid All Engineers. And I'm like, what the heck is that? I have no idea what that means. But instead of being negative, I actually read it, and it's kind of cool. As we do more and more system level simulation, it's getting to be a real pain to manage all that. So this digital engineering, doing engineering in a digital environment is getting more and more complex as the capability goes more and more up, and as we can model more and more of the system. So this is really a suggested methodology for controlling the whole thing. And I'll quote it. It basically says, with a digital engineering methodology, all elements across disciplines and throughout design, simulation, analysis, validation are brought together into one digital engineering methodology. And they say it's like a cookbook. And that serves as the authoritative source of truth, right? So you don't have all these silos of people doing simulation. It's how to all work together. And, if you've studied the digitization of business in general, databases and stuff, it's kind of the same thing, but for engineering. So I really recommend, if you care about kind of the future of how things are going to be done and how to manage all this information, give the post a read. I think they're onto something here, and look for more as time goes by. The next article that I'm recommending is called Meet the South African Team Breaking Records and Building Rockets. So this is a student team doing rocketry out of South Africa, and it's kind of keeping that space theme from last month alive. It's a great article. I just find these inspiring to see what the students are doing, and they're doing real stuff, right? They're not making a little toy rocket. This is a big rocket, and it's amazing R&D, useful R&D that they're using simulation and test for. So check that one out. Always cool. And my last pick for the month is using the power of simulation to help our planet. And this is Ansys' contribution in their blog to Earth Day for 2025. And it's a great overview of how we have to use simulation to deal with climate change. Always been a big advocate for that. I remember talking with the former CEO of Ansys, Jim Cashman, probably 20 years ago about this topic. And he said, he was a very bright man. He's kind of the guy that put Ansys on the path they're on right now. And one of the things that he said to me was, it's all about efficiency. You step back from the emotion and the fear and all that and the politics around it. When we talk about doing a better job with our planet, it's about making life better for people through machinery, engineering, but doing it in a way that's more efficient and has less of an impact on that planet, or even a positive impact on the planet. So this is kind of continuing that legacy. It's a really good article. It talks about, if you want to be able to articulate a little bit better why simulation is so important to sustainability and to help our planet. This is a great article. It's got some good stuff in there. So big fan. All right. On the PADT blog, we only had time for 2 posts since the last episode. The first one is from Alex Gershin, and it's another article in his series about doing user material, user programmable functions. And this is called Using the UserMat UPF to Define Custom Ansys Mechanical Materials on Windows. So he goes through basically setting up a fairly usable, and they're all usable, but it's not a simple model. So a little bit more in depth of how to do your own custom materials in Ansys. We won't name them, but there's another piece of software out there that people say it's much easier. I think they haven't used Ansys Mechanical to do this in a long time. It's actually pretty easy to do your own material models using user programmable functions. So it's seen a lot of clicks. People are really reading it quite a bit. The second one is on our ongoing series of what I call trip reports for our team members, because they seem to be read quite a bit. As we travel around the country and around the world for events, we are asking them to just do a little article for the blog on that. And this one covers 2 events we had at the same time in Albuquerque last month. We love going to Albuquerque. We have a lot of customers there. The first was a user group meeting for engineers at Sandia National Labs. And the second was the Stratasys truck. This is a giant truck that's got 3D printers in it, made a visit to the nuclear museum, the National Nuclear Museum there in Albuquerque. And so we were in the parking lot with that for people to check it out. Anyway, learn more. It's called PADT in Albuquerque, a recap. Kind of fun. Get to know our engineers a little bit better, some cool pictures. And if you've not been to the Nuclear Museum in Albuquerque, I recommend, if you're in that neck of the woods, check it out. Really cool. A lot of really important history there. So let's take a look at upcoming webinars. So I'm going to go ahead and pop onto our website, which you could do as well if you want to know what's going on. And you just go to About and then Webinars. So probably around the time this podcast is going to get released on the 21st of May, we're doing an optical updates on Ansys 2025 R1 webinar. So we're going to get in more into depth of the stuff we talked about today in the interview. On the 4th of June, we've got composites and structural optimization updates in Ansys 2025 R1. Then that's on the 4th. And then on the 18th of June, we've got Fluent CPU stuff. So enhancements to the CPU, the user interface, and the user experience for Fluent in 2025 R1. So those are the things we're going to talk about. Then in July 2nd, right before your break, electronics, machine, and consumer electronic updates in Ansys 2025 R1. And then the next 2025 R1 is going to be HFSS on the 16th of July. So that's what we have scheduled so far. You can always go to the padtinc.com/about/webinars and not only register for these things, but you can listen in to past webinars. We can just talk about everything there. So check that out. Event-wise, what do we got going on? It's kind of a quiet period. We were really busy. We're promoting a series of webinars that Ansys is putting on, so continue to go to those. And then our next event is we're going to be at Tech Connect World in 2025, the Tech Connect World 2025, which is going to be in Austin, Texas. We're both exhibiting and attending. So this is, commercialization focused innovators. It's about SBIR and STTR companies. And of course we do those and we work with companies to do those. So that's June 9th through 11th in Austin. So if you go to that, check us out. I'm trying to see if there's anything else on here, just more online Ansys things, which you can check out on the Ansys website. The next big event for us is June 16th to the 20th. This is going to be in Memphis, is the Turbo Expo. So definitely check us out there. We're going to be exhibiting as well. So that's the 16th to the 20th. And then here in Phoenix on June 25th, we'll be at the E-Mobility and Clean Energy Summit. It's one of my favorite events. That's with the Arizona Technology Council. And then July 11th is going to be the Aerospace, Aviation, Defense, and Manufacturing Conference, also with the Arizona Technology Council. That's going to be down in Tucson. And then the last event of the summer that we have on our calendar right now is we'll be at SmallSat 2025 this year. So check us out. That's August 10th through the 13th. So a lot going on, lots of events. We hope to run into some of you at any of those. Stop by and say you listen to the podcast. We'd love that. So that's it. I want to thank you again for listening to another episode. Don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter, www.padtinc.com/opt-in, so you can see all sorts of other stuff. Do also subscribe to this podcast. Spread the word to other Ansys users. And as always, don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you for joining us for the All Things Ansys podcast, episode 136. As a reminder, this podcast is not affiliated in any way with Ansys Inc., and the opinions expressed are those of the people on the show only and not of their current or former employers. For more information, visit www.padtinc.com/blog, and please share your thoughts and questions through an email to podcast@padtinc.com. See you next time.